Okay, I saw Mr. Crockett sitting back there nodding his head in disagreement a number of times, and I really want to give you the opportunity, you looked at me, I want to give you the opportunity to respond to a few of these issues, but we also want to get some questions in too.
Absolutely.
So I'll give you 5 minutes to address some of the key issues, or we can go into questions, whatever you would like.
Let me take just a couple of minutes,
All right.
please. Thanks.
And folks, let me also, before he starts talking, we may not agree with Mr. Crockett, but I respect him for coming here and speaking with us. Okay? So over the next few minutes as we're interacting, I'm going to ask you to show your respect to him, okay? You may disagree with him, but as we pose questions, we don't need to be disagreeable in posing the questions, okay? So let's be respectful, and Mr. Crockett, go ahead and respond to a few things.
Thank you. Well, I didn't give a presentation on climate change. I don't really, in the way we approach our business, I don't care if the tooth fairy is causing it. What we focus on are the things that people say have to change that make sense anyway, like saving money. If somebody thinks that saves carbon, good on them. If they think that it's better because it saves money, it's kind of like that beer commercial. It's more filling or less calories or whatever. It was an old commercial, I remember. Whatever they believe is fine with me. But we're going to go do the things. I'm a business guy. And the first thing we did is do triage. And I said, we want to do the thing that will pay the bills. And if it is cutting, if you got an $800,000 water bill, then somebody will say that's environmentally positive to go do something about wasting water. I think it's impositive to cut $400,000 out of it. And I think it's impositive to put $5 million out of an energy bill. And I think it's positive to, instead of, I've watched government just throw money away after they saved it or got it, to trap it in a fund. So I didn't come to argue about climate change. And waste stream analysis may cut down the carbon coming out of the landfill. But the big deal is we can cut $10 million a year. I think more. And that's all we work on. And I'm going methodically through waste and whatever. The second is the office of sustainability as it exists right now probably won't exist. I probably won't be there much longer this year. I didn't come here to make a career. I came here because the city, the mayor said, I've got a water problem, and I want you to come work on that and come start an office of sustainability and do something about the climate action plan. And that's exactly what I did. I've gotten involved in the water because I think that we have wasted $100 million. And I was there arguing for doing it a different way 15 years ago. Now we've got another chance. We may go back and do it again, just exactly like we did. But that's why I'm involved. As far as ICLEI ain't got anything to do with me. I'm Scots-Irish. I vote in Republican primaries, but I vote for Democrats. And I'm not taking a cue from either party. One doesn't know have the answers, and the other one doesn't know what the questions are. And I'm just not a party guy. I'm Scots-Irish, independent, and I am going to do what I want to do. I don't even know what ICLEI does, and I guarantee you it doesn't have a darn thing to do with my office or me or any of our people. And that's just the way it is. Now, if you don't like ICLEI, that's fine. I don't like a lot of stuff, but it ain't got a dang thing to do with me. And I wish I could speak as good as this guy. And I wish I had his radio voice.
But you do need to hold the microphone.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any questions out there that you've turned in? Okay, if you would turn them in here, okay? Let me go through a few of these questions here. The first question I'm going to ask, okay. First question I'm going to ask, because we do see the tie between ICLEI and the Chattanooga Office of Sustainability. We think there's a key tie there. And so here's a question. ICLEI is an effective sustainability and environmental agency. ICLEI is an agent for what organization or group? Do you know the answer to that?
I don't know that they're an organization that's part of anything, but they are not. They're not part of our office. We are a member of ICLEI. They're $1,750, which is real cheap compared to all the other things. I didn't make that membership, but I will tell you, go back, and I'm going to leave my slideshow with you. I remember, Bobby, and some of the questions in the early 90s. This is going to scare business. I heard that from people who kept repeating it. It's going to scare business. Every business in the country has a sustainability office. They probably don't know who ICLEI is. They have no idea what Agenda 21 is. Frankly, you know, maybe they're all dummies, but they are doing this strictly to save money and be competitive. And I'll get the Sloan Business Review, I'll give it to you, and look at the percentages and look at the respondents and from what countries. If somebody else believes all those things you say about ICLEI, then they do. I don't know. I've never met anybody that does. And it doesn't really have anything to do with us. I mean, and y'all are all great folks. But honestly, there is no big deal about ICLEI in Chattanooga with these other people. I don't think Tom Ed Wilson knows who they are.
Then why be a member?
Huh?
Then why be a member?
Well, I guess 1,600 or whatever the countries are. I wasn't here when we came a member. I wasn't here when we wrote the climate action plan. Most of it is so innocuous. If you read it and go back to what was written by Chattanoogans in 1990, and everything that we talked about coming true did come true. Nobody believed it at the time. It was all about trying to develop economic opportunities for Chattanooga. And that's all we believe. That's what my presentation was about. And that's what, you know, we can attack that if you'd like to talk to you, but I don't know about all these things you're talking about. I really don't.
Let me ask a question. You served on, I think this is in your bio, the President's Council for Sustainable Development.
I did.
And this question is from Karen Bracken. It says the PCSD was created to promote Agenda 21. You served on that council, so with this experience, are you not complicit in bringing Agenda 21 to Chattanooga/Hamilton County?
Guilty, I guess. I was on the President's Council for Sustainable Development. I was on the President's Council, the President's Economic Roundtable, that met with the President of Delta and a bunch of other people that in Atlanta at Emory University. President's Council on Sustainable Development had the chairman of Mr. Stemple, the chairman of General Motors, the chairman of Ciba-Geigy, the chairman of Georgia Pacific. It had a lot of people on it. And it represented, and when we got to Chattanooga, we had it come here. We had the entire president's cabinet except for defense and treasury. That's the first time it ever happened outside of Washington, here in Chattanooga. And what we told them was, you're a bunch of national corporations and a bunch of national organizations, environmental or labor or whatever, and all the actions at a local level. Because this is the only place where people could see all these strategies come together. And people in Washington, frankly, and people at the state level, frankly, are too divorced, too far away from seeing how everything comes together. So we asked that they start including local government, which they didn't do. They had state, they had federal, they didn't have any local. And that's what we brought up here in Chattanooga.
Okay, here's another question. If the Chattanooga Climate Action Plan and ICLEI are such big problems, would you be a leader in ending Chattanooga's membership and abolishing the CCAP and completely rewriting it?
I would challenge first, read it.
We did. We did.
Okay. And then we'll have a roundtable and talk about what it is that bothers you. If I thought just saying, okay, we'll cut out no contract, there's no ICLEI contracts, no such thing. And we had the attorneys go back and look. There's an invoice for $1,750 that was paid some years ago, 2009. But there are no contracts. There are no contracts. There is no approving Agenda 21. It's a non-binding agreement, but there are no ICLEI contracts. And I'm not telling you that just to say, oh boy, you're crazy. I'm telling you because it's the truth. We can't find one. But we disagree on that one. But I would be happy to sit with anybody. I think if throwing out ICLEI as a membership group would allow us to come together on a lot of issues, I'd probably do that in a heartbeat. But I don't think it would. I think the next one, well, what about the term sustainability? The term quality is defined 50 different ways. When we brought that out, the term Christianity is interpreted a million ways. You have a different interpretation of that word than Edgar Woolard of DuPont, of practically all the business people. Practically all the business people. They look at it maybe incorrectly from your standpoint, from what you believe, but they look at it simply as a way to save money and get competitive.
Just a quick question on the ICLEI and the $1,750. When we were talking, when Gregg was talking, you mentioned over here that someone paid $25,000 to ICLEI. So I'm curious, even though the city did that, who was that, and what was that $25,000 for?
We paid through ICLEI, not to ICLEI. There was a consortium of the National League of Cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and a number of other organizations were trying to develop a way of measuring what's going on in the city for people to use. Every day we hear something like the gang task force the other day said, what are the metrics? Do we know what's happening in that precinct? How many people went to jail? How many people came back out of jail? How many people don't have a high school degree? How many people are single-family homes? How many people have AIDS? What are all the data in that little... And they were saying, we don't know. Maybe the office center knows. Maybe somebody else knows. So why should we spend $500,000 on something we don't know? We've got that in the budget. And what this tool does, and all the other tools that just collect data, is let you make a decision. And what it does, it puts it up on the screen on the city website so you can look at it and make decisions, and you can keep your officials accountable because you can see the data and don't have to rely on them to tell you. So that was passed through that consortium to a third-party software developer. ICLEI is no longer part of that, by the way. And the lady who helped us develop that is brilliant with computers and mathematics. And we're losing her to Yale. But it is simply a way of keeping up with statistical data. And at IBM, we call that a decision support system, where an executive or anybody in the corporation can look at what's happening. We could tell you crime statistics within 30 days of any place in Chattanooga. You could do that by going on the website. That's all that is. And we got all the foundations in town, Kenwood, Lyndhurst, all of them to pony up the money for that. We did everything with grants. We hadn't spent a nickel of city money, not a nickel.
What about federal money?
We spend federal money every day for radios for police, for extra policemen, for grants for roads, for everything we do. We could turn down all grants from the state government, all grants from federal government, and the state could turn them down. I don't know, Bobby Woods might tell you what kind of problem that'd be to make a budget if you had no grants coming. And so we use these energy grants. We redid them. We said we're going to leverage this money. So we took a small bit of money and did the street lights, and then made the city come up with a way of paying for all the rest of them. We did the same thing with buildings. So we got 20 we'll have $40 million capital leveraged by our little $1.8 million. And from a business standpoint, and it saved the city $5 million. But it was a grant. I wish I had another one because we're going to scale our office back. We don't have a grant right now. And until the savings come from the lights and water, I'm going to step in. And a number of other people are going to step in. My job was to try to get us to take another approach on water and try to save some money.
Okay, question here from Larry. Does Mr. Crockett, or do you intend to request the city council to fully fund the Chattanooga Office of Sustainability for fiscal year 2014? If the city council decides to fully fund COS for 2014, does the COS then become a new city department or continue to operate under the executive branch with no detailed accountability as a budget item except as a budget allocation?
I would have it be a line item budget item in the future. This year, the functions will be scattered. There won't, we'll try to keep the energy because we've got to get that finished. That is in your interest to get that done. So we'll keep that. I'm probably not going to be there, no matter how much they fund it. That's not, I'm going to do what I said I would do, and I want to see us fight our way out of this water thing without taking another beating. And we could very well spend $100 million that you don't know how it's being spent. It's just somehow underground. We did that 15 years. Now, we argued against that. We argued for a green roof on the convention center, and we argued for low-impact development and above-ground infrastructure. But we spent $100 million underground. Now, what we laughed at about a green roof on our convention center, Nashville has a $1 billion consent decree. $1 billion. So they have a 4.5-acre roof. That's a lot of mowing or either a lot of goats to take care of that roof on their convention center. Because that absorbs an inch of rainfall just like that. And Chicago has 1,000 of them downtown.
No, they do not. I'm sorry, they do not.
Oh, where are they?
250. That's on the city website for Chicago.
Okay, they got 250. I heard 1,000.
How much do they cost to maintain every month?
I'm sorry?
How much do they cost to maintain every month?
They're private. I mean, they're private. I don't know. It probably very little, but that's an individual commercial choice. You're in business, you make a choice. You want to do it, fine. You don't want to do it, don't do it.
Sounds like to me the problem is the EPA and the mandates that they put on the states and local communities, and you have an agency that should not even exist constitutionally is causing the problem that you're trying to resolve through an international organization. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, my friend, you're wrong. I don't have any ties to that.
Wait, no, how am I wrong?
I don't have any ties to an international organization.
I didn't say you did.
Okay. I didn't know. I thought you said international organization. EPA, we put 500 million gallons of untreated sewage in the Tennessee River. Now, if nobody was around, would that be okay?
Nobody says it has to be okay.
Well, that's what we did. So we probably shouldn't have done that to start with. We probably should have figured it out, and we could have done it about 1/3 the cost. Philadelphia was going to have to build $12 million worth of tunnels around underground to meet the EPA mandate, and they said, we can't do it, we're broke. And so they came up with a way of doing it above ground. They're the first ones to do this, and to do it with above ground infrastructure, and it cost $4 billion.
How come they bill their customers for rainwater runoff? I have a house in Center City, Philadelphia, and I pay every month for rainwater runoff. How come I pay for that if they put this system in place?
Well, you pay in Philadelphia $115 a year, or $135. It's about the same as ours. But the commercial customers that cause most of the runoff, they pay 5 times what Chattanooga's pay. But they don't want the money. They want you to hold your water on the place. If you hold your water on the place in Chattanooga, on your place, you won't get a stormwater bill.
Speaking of stormwater, here's a question dealing with that. How do you plan on capturing gray water all the way up Highway 58 and get it to the city? They are paying stormwater fees up Highway 58 as well as other parts that are not hooked up to the sewer system.
Well, even if they're not hooked up to the sewer system, it requires infrastructure to take it away. And I hope everybody would say, okay, whatever falls on your property, keep it on your property. Don't let it come off on your neighbors, don't let it go out in the street, because somebody's going to have to build a curb and gutter. If we do it the new way we're proposing, developers will spend less on infrastructure, the streets will be narrower, there won't be any curbs, there won't be any pipes. They will try to flow it into something that looks like landscaping, which will raise the price of their product, the value of their product, and cut the cost of their infrastructure. And that's all we want to do in Chattanooga, cut the cost of the infrastructure and make it possible for a resident or a business person to have a zero stormwater bill.
Mark, that was my question. Can I ask something about that?
Sure.
Are there people that were annexed into the city of Chattanooga from Red Bay that are not hooked up to the sewer system that are paying those stormwater fees? And there are curbs and there are septic systems, but they have to pay to hook up to your septic system or your sewer system.
I think the rule in the county and in the city is that once they provide the line to your subdivision, if you lived in Saudi Daisy or something, or outside the city limits of Chattanooga, if a line comes to your subdivision, then you have to start paying.
You're assuming I live in a subdivision. I don't. I live on a piece of property out in Saudi Daisy, a septic system, and it's pure rock all the way to if they put a line out there. I would have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to run that line and pay for something I will never pay to put up to. I will never hook up to.
That's what you get. That's a Saudi Daisy.
Well, I'm not moving down
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Another reason to live in Chattanooga.
I'm not living in Chattanooga to pay y'all exorbitant taxes. Y'all can't even keep your books balanced.
Let me ask you a question about the green roofs.
Okay.
You mentioned about infrastructure and costs and so forth. Are there green roofs here in Chattanooga that are not subsidized or paid for by federal, state, or local funds, taxes, and so forth, NGOs and so forth?
There's one at the tavern, and there's one at GPS, and this one, what I'm going to try to do with the downtown Boma, and I'm going to go talk with them. If it's going to cost us money to build pipes underground, and we can do that cheaper by giving somebody an incentive to do something, whether it's we want them to disconnect, there's now in the downtown area, there's something called a standpipe. It goes straight into the sewer system. And you bring the downspouts and just hook them into, so the water just runs straight in there. We want to get them to disconnect those downspouts and put in a little planter box so that water doesn't go in there. Now those are the things they've done in Milwaukee, Louisville, Cincinnati, cities of Kansas City. The mayor of Kansas City didn't suddenly turn green. He turned green all right when he got a consent decree. When somebody waves $1 billion deal at you, you start trying to figure out anything. So he is trying to have Kansas City build 10,000 rain gardens. And he's got, trying to get the residents to say, come on, we're going to build 10,000 rain gardens, keep that water out of here. And try to get away and save them about $100 million under his plan, if he can take care of it another way.
Yeah, I have a question. You've mentioned the triple bottom line several times during your presentation, and I know that sustainable development is made up of social, economic, and environmental aspects, and they're measurable indicators that many cities are already adopting in order to measure how the community's doing. Now, I do know that Maureen Hart has done a lot of work along these lines, and perhaps the young lady in the back that's well involved in this could get to the answer. But measuring the individual household and determining the ecological footprint for along all of those lines, social, economic, and environmental, would be a database gathering or a questioning. How are you going to collect that information and then utilize that to make equality across the board?
Here's my proposal, and I don't know if the city will do it or not. We've got a phenomenal group of people that we brought here to teach us how to do things. One of the ones is probably the best person at doing public participation in the country. And what they did is break down, take Glenwood, or take North Chattanooga. North Chattanooga is like 20-something micro watersheds, little backyard watersheds, less than 30 acres. He proposes that we take 105 neighborhood associations and divide them, like Glenwood has 11, into micro watersheds, and then have those individuals in there, and that's a way that we'll start dealing with them on services. And as far as collecting data, let them do it. That city in Brazil, what I loved about it was they didn't have any money, so the residents, they tried to make things need to need. The citizens needed transportation and food, so they'd go give me surplus food and tokens. We're going to give them a little device and let those little individual neighborhoods do their own data collection. I trust them more than government. And if we tie that with another program around recycling, we'll be able to give them an incentive. If these cans that East Ridge and Signal Mountain have, and the county, it's got a little RFID thing, and it gives you points. I'm talking to the guy who developed that system, recycling, to give me a new system that says, okay, make it like, I'm a peddler, so I come up with ways of incenting salesmen to sell things. But if you recycle, every time you push it out, the truck, the garbage collection automatically counts that. It's 1. I'd like to have a program that goes bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, whatever. If you do recycling, that's 1. If you have a garbage disposer and you use it, that's 2. If you have a rain barrel or rain garden, that's 3. If you have, and then...
Don't forget composting.
And composting. Some people will compost, some people won't. If you put that garbage down the incinerator, it'll go out to the Moccasin bin, and we can turn it into electricity. We are not doing it now, but we should be doing it.
Well, now, of course, that's just dealing with one aspect of the 3 legs of the milking stool, or the circles.
Right.
What about social aspects now of the triple bottom line?
Well, what we're doing, real quickly, is we brought in some guy from the Brady campaign to talk about gun violence. And I encourage us not to do that. Number one, not because I'm an NRA member, I am. But it's not a hardware problem.
A gun box, did you say?
A gun...
safe?
No, it's Brady...
The campaign.
Yeah. And that has... I've got 30 guns and I've got kids, and I mean, if you tried to break in my house, you'd have to give me an hour notice so I could find the ammunition for the guns.
Right.
I'd hit you with a golf club. I'm tired of wood shooting.
Better than hitting the ball, huh?
Yeah. But we don't have a hardware problem in Chattanooga with black on black crime. We have a software problem. When you can point something and cavalier pull the trigger, then taking it away from you doesn't change your mind.
Right.
We started out of the Office of Sustainability. We went to the University of Pennsylvania. The guy who created the program for the United States Army, they're training 40,000 sergeants that will train 1.5 million troops, and will screen them, and it teaches skills that help you deal with stress, and depression and help you learn. If you're in the inner city, people sometimes become victims and they can't escape it in their own mind. It teaches people to take control of your own self. And we think that's the best way. We're working with the president of the university, president of Chattanooga Hospice, talk with Frank Rock, some other people, about how we could do that. And the University of Pennsylvania would love for us to do it voluntarily, to deliver that training to everybody in Hamilton County through faith-based schools, neighborhood associations, and whatever. It's just positive psychology. It just trains people in something called permanent, like they're trained in the military, to deal with stress, to deal when bad things happen to everybody. And it teaches you how to deal with it and grow from it. And that's the only way I know that you fix that.
Okay, but also I've read.
Wait a minute.
Sure.
Back on green roofs.
Yes, sir.
Why is it we don't see advertisements on the radio or the TV of the grassy roof company saying, buy our grassy roofs because you're going to save money over the asphalt roofs?
There's nobody here. If you go to Nashville, there are 2 companies that started there because the demand's so high. And we are getting our green roof from a Nashville company. And it's being installed by a Madisonville company. Isn't that pathetic? And that was the only bids we had. Because until you do something, it's like you had the first Hyundai or something in Chattanooga. I mean, nobody knows how to work on it. I had an old Pujo when I was in college that nobody knew what it was. I had to learn how to fix it.
David, I appreciate that answer. I don't personally buy that answer because in America, especially, what you would be suggesting then is that Chattanooga is just a really backward city. We have no entrepreneurs here that see the potential for making millions of dollars with a green roof.
I hope they do.
You know, okay, and green roofs have been around for a long time, so we're just decades and decades behind the trends here, I guess is what you were suggesting. But I don't know that we'll solve this issue. You probably know where I stand on green roofs, and you know where you stand.
Right.
Let me say this in wrapping up.
Anybody that wants one, get them.
Do you have a green roof?
What's it
Do
called?
you have a green roof?
I'm not recommending them for any residential.
Okay.
No residential.
Let me. I know we have several more questions, but the time is getting late. Let me just kind of wrap up. Ms. Crockett, I appreciate you coming. You certainly come across as a very decent, upstanding gentleman. I kind of think about a scenario. I grew up in a foreign country where there was a dictator. Okay, he was, I spent 12 years in a foreign country as a child into my teenage years. He was a dictator, and he was, for the most part, a benevolent dictator. But we also know of a lot of other nations where the dictators are not quite so benevolent. You've talked about the fact that you're going to be leaving the office pretty soon. And so while you may, I can't read your heart, I can't read your mind, and while you may have pure motives on everything that you presented here, we can't assume that your motives are going to continue. In fact, all we can go by is what the black and white shows. And when we've done extensive study on these issues, you cannot deny the agendas that Agenda 21 is all about. You cannot deny what ICLEI is about. You may say that, well, but we're not really that involved with them. They can kick you out if you don't follow their agenda. They can. I can read you.
No way.
Okay, find that for me real quick.
No, can't do it.
Okay, I just read it. Okay, here is ICLEI right here, and here it says termination of membership, Charter 2.6. If they do not conform to the objectives of the association as set forth in the charter and bylaws, they may be terminated. That's you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where this came from, but
From
Mayor
ICLEI.
doesn't know about it.
It's ICLEI, okay? So the point is, we won't solve all these discrepancies tonight, but they are here, okay?
That's one, we
Okay.
disagree.
Okay, well, then, but in this instance, I will choose to take what's in black and white in print versus what an interpretation is of a particular
Mark,
issue.
if I could get us out of Italy, if that would solve our
It's a phone call.
It's a start. It's a start.
We cancel our membership.
It's a start if you're committed here that you would do that. We want to be a partner. We're citizens of Hamilton County and of Chattanooga as well. And so we should have we're stakeholders, to use that term, which we oftentimes understand differently what that term actually means. But in essence, what we are concerned about is that the benevolent dictator may not always be here, okay? And so we have to fall back to the reality of these documents, the reality of a 20 or 30 or 40-year agenda, the reality that we know what the agenda of the United Nations is. And so, you know, we're aware of other cities and communities that are withdrawing membership from ICLEI, okay, and withdrawing their membership from these different organizations. We would love to see that happen here in Chattanooga, you know. Because someday you're not going to be in that office. And we have some serious concerns based on all of the things that Gregg already offered to you.
I'll tell you a way we can fix it. Let Gregg run it.
What hand can run the office of sustainability?
Because if you were running it, you'd do the same thing we're doing, and that is save money.
This is Boyd.
Do nothing to do anything to anybody's rights. Not even get into discussion about it. Everything we do is free market. And it's about saving money. So, I mean, literally, I'd welcome you to come down and say, here's our strategy.
When offices are funded by grants, that's not free markets. Okay, those are not free markets. Those are, and ultimately, when they're funded by grants from a government that is $1 trillion in a deficit every year, those programs will not continue forever. That is not sustainable.
No, ours is over this year.
So that goes to Larry's question, how is that office going to be funded going forward? And we need to see those numbers. We're not aware of those numbers. It's really not out there in the open. So we just
Next year, it will be self-funded through savings in whatever areas they're working in, whether it's waste or energy or water. This year, there'll be a small bridge fund because government is so slow. We should have executed those contracts like that and already had that savings coming to Chattanooga. We're about a year off pace just because it is so slow to get something done in government. And the decision process is nearly dysfunctional. But when those contracts are in place and that money gets trapped, then a small piece of that will fund, and it ought to be called an innovation office. That's what it is. It's an innovation office that also presses the triple bottom line and those principles. It's an innovation and sustainability office. And it gets funded. We don't have any full-time people. We morph and change from 10 people to 5 people because to the opportunity or the challenge. And we've been fortunate enough to get people, you know, I got PhDs working for $20 an hour, no benefits. And people that just like what they're doing. And they'll work, and moms that want to be with their children in the morning and in the afternoon, work 4 hours a day. And so we have an incredibly talented and well-educated group of people that are committed to do this. And so you don't have any overhead. City government doesn't inherit a bunch of positions from this. It can go this big or go this big. And that's why we tried to make it like business. So it'd be not setting up a bunch of career positions.
Well, again, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I think this is a story that we have to probably finish tonight to say to be continued. There's a lot more that's still unaddressed.
I've enjoyed it. I would love to do it.
Yeah, well, and perhaps the next time is a roundtable.
Please get those. Please get those. Well, the thing that probably is closer to what I believe is something called Target 96, which was written in 1990. And it had Target 96 was the first 5 years, and then 5 years from that. And we did most of those things, and they're very strategic, but they're not philosophical.
Where's it located?
It's on the back.
No, it's back to me.
Oh, it's here. And I think there's a lot of.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Crockett, and let's give him a hand. We do have, I'm mentioned at the outset, but please check the tables in the back. There is a lot of good information that you'll want to grab copies of to take with you from, not just from Gregg, but also some other folks that are quite informed on this topic here in this audience tonight. So thank you, Mr. Crockett, for coming. We are dismissed. Thank you.